Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you all. So, it's funny, in just yesterday's video, our Punk Sprite video, I was saying that I put that deck together because I was waiting to get my hands on the Punk Secret Pack, and I wanted to get my Punk fix in the meantime. And, of course, the next day, the day that I'm currently recording this, is when that Secret Pack ends up dropping. So, yeah, we are now playing pure, relatively pure anyway, Punk, and I am very, very satisfied with this deck. I think I had at one point a Rising Carp and or Amazing Dragon from the first time these cards came out, and I just ended up dusting them because Punk, for the longest time, really was not at the power level it's at right now. But I definitely regret that, especially now that I've actually played with these two cards. I didn't think that they would make that much of a splash in the engine, or like that much of an addition. You know, I've been using the Punk shell to make Chaos Ruler for quite a while now, and I kind of thought, well, that's what it's really best for, right? But it turns out Amazing Dragon is, well, a card that lives up to its name, let's just say that. It does do a lot more than I gave credit for. The ability to bounce multiple cards, often 3 if not 4, on your opponent's turn, or even on your turn 2, when you are going first and have the ability to attack, is a phenomenal effect, and one that I highly underestimated. Also, this card's art is gorgeous. It might just be my favorite art in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. This card looks amazing, and I think that's pretty rad too. Of course, Rising Carp is also a very good card. This card opens up a lot of options as far as like your opening hands go. I've said in a lot of past videos where I've played Punk that, oh, if you open Foxy Tune by itself, that's not really a play. Well, that's just because I wasn't playing Rising Carp. With Rising Carp, we have the ability to fusion summon it using the Sharakusai here. And this is going to be one of your default go-to level 3 tuners, as it has not only the ability to fusion summon, of course, into the Rising Carp, but this is also your way to synchro on your opponent's turn into the Amazing Dragon. So definitely a very important card. We're actually playing one of each Punk tuner, the Madam Spider and the Wagon. The Wagon is able to add a spell. We have the one of Punk Jam Extreme Session. The field spell gets a lot of advantage by drawing a lot of cards as you're doing your normal plays anyway. And the Madam Spider has the ability to add a Punk Trap card, which in our case is going to be the Dangerous Gabu, is the one I've opted for. This has the ability to negate monster effects. There is the other one that sees quite a bit of play. That's the name I can't remember off the top of my head, but that one has the ability to destroy set cards, or if you control Punk Monster, a face-up card. That card is good, but I definitely prefer the Monster Negate over Destruction. Also, the Dangerous Gabu is a lot more consistent because you don't even have to have a Punk card to negate with this card. The only thing the Punk Monster gets you is life points equals that monster's attack. But as far as the actual effect of negation goes, the disruption that you're looking for, that's going to be no matter if you have a Punk Monster or not. Whereas with the other one, you know, it's often you want to destroy a face-up monster and not a face-down one, or a face-down card, rather. So, you know, it's better to have, I think, the Gabu, in my opinion. This is my first kind of take at this build here. We are playing the Bystial package. That seems pretty standard as far as Punk goes, and I think the only thing I'm really missing to go with it is a level 9 Synchro. There were a couple of times where I didn't think I needed one while I was playing, but I thought the option might be nice. Because it is me, I am also playing 3 Assault Synchron, although I don't think this is suboptimal at all. In fact, I would dare say that I think Assault Synchron is probably optimal in pure Punk. It opens up a lot of options as far as not only the ability to potentially make Chaos Ruler with your Bystial monsters, but also the ability to make Baronne and a Chengying. Of course, especially Baronne, the ability to put out an Omni Negate to back up your line that goes into Amazing Dragon is pretty good. I will say that one of this deck's weaknesses is that it does tend to be a little bit susceptible to disruption, not only in its own combo lines, but in the fact that, you know, you're often going to be ending on your Sharakusai plus a level 8 Synchro monster to aim to go into the Amazing Dragon on your opponent's turn, but it's not hard for your opponent to use Disruption to try to remove either of those two monsters on the field, usually the Sharakusai, and that can potentially mess you up pretty badly. So you do have to watch out for that, but I don't think it's any more or less susceptible to disruption than a lot of other decks. If I do start to feel that I am getting messed up by a lot of things, I might consider throwing in like a Cross-Eye Designator or something to kind of help facilitate my plays here. All right. As far as the extra deck goes, there's a lot of options you can play. This extra deck's kind of wide open because the only things that I find myself, at least in the brief playtesting I've done of the deck so far, the only things I've really consistently summoned like almost every single game are like the Rising Carp, the Chaos Ruler, the Baron if you have access to Assault Synchron, the Amazing Dragon, the Select Again Punisher. You usually make this at some point. And that's honestly pretty much it. Of course, there's also all the, more fringe options, but there's quite a few things in here, like the number 90, just making a rank 8 in general. I haven't really done, same with making a rank 3. The Underworld Goddess, of course, is an option here. We have a few link options. The Dharc I have actually made it is very useful. You could consider making an IP Masquerade or playing an IP Masquerade in this extra deck. There's any number of rank 8s you can think about playing, level 8 Synchros as well. I haven't really summoned either the Jam Dragon Drive or the Drake or Berserker, but I think, over time, I just want to do more playtesting and see what I really would like to have in the extra deck there. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about the build itself. Now let's go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we'll look at some gameplay. So we're playing 3 Maxx, 3 Assault Synchron, 3 Ash Blossom, and Joyous Spring, 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Sharkusai, 1 Gagaku Punk, yeah, I think I said that right, Wagon, 1 Joruri Punk, Madam Spider, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Amin, 1 Noh-P.U.N.K Deer Note, 1 Bystial Magnamhut, 3 Bystial Sarnier, 1 Bystial Druiswarm, 1 Bystial Baldrake, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Ogre Dance, 3 The Bystial Rebellion, 1 Punk Jam Extreme Session, 1 Branded Regained, 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Call by the Grave, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Joruri Punk Dangerous Gabu. It's going to do it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Rising Carp, 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, 1 Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, 1 Accel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Punk Jam Dragon Drive, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Punk Amazing Dragon, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 number 3 Cicada King, 1 number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Dharc the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. There's our list. Now let's look at some games. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these duels, just in the order that I actually played them in. This was the second game that I played on ladder ever with this deck that we're about to watch here. It's actually going to be a mirror match. The first game, ooh, that was some nice thunder there. The first game was actually a kind of non-game against Flo, where I opened terribly and went second, so... the Bystial Rebellion is going to be the first thing I'm activating here. Just trying to bait out an Ash Blossom before I go ahead and use the E-Telly here. I really like having the Bystial Rebellion in general in a lot of decks just for being able to bait out Ash a lot of the time. I will say that I think pretty much any deck that plays Bystial Rebellion has a better Ash target than it, so my advice is generally not to use the Ash Blossom on it, but of course it does tend to vary from situation to situation. But what we're doing here so far is a pretty typical Punk line, at least as far as I know. I didn't actually really look up any like guides or anything. Usually I do that when I get into a new archetype, but I feel like I've played against this deck enough, slash watched people play it enough, slash played Punk adjacent engine slash decks enough that I think I have a decent handle on how the archetype works. But I could be making slight misplays. If I am, definitely don't be shy about letting me know in the comments section below there. So we have the Sharkusai as well as the Chaos Ruler set up, but the cool thing about the Chaos Ruler is that it can usually find you some pretty cool plays here, ideally Assault Synchron. We don't find it in this case, but getting an extra Bystial Druiswarm is of course very nice here. I will go ahead and sack off the Chaos Ruler for the Bystial Rebellion that allow me to set up the Branded Regain on my field, but before that can come down, my opponent's going to use the Sarnier and get rid of that Chaos Ruler out of my graveyard. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not really that big of a deal. I still have the 3 and the 8 set up for the Amazing Dragon. I'm going to summon the Magnamhut here to get an additional Bystial Surge, as well as an extra draw. Mainly the extra draw. I mean, we could have held the Magnamhut and had a Bystial monster either way, but this will get us an extra Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Technically could have normal summoned it here and tried to Synchro, because I haven't actually used my normal summon on this turn. If I'd played a level 9 Synchro, that might have been good, but not that big of a deal to just hold it here. So, as you can see, opponent is going to be on the same engine here. I'm going to start with the Sharkusai effect. I'm going to use the Dangerous Gabu here. My plan is to negate this and then let my opponent build up a little bit more of their board and then go into the Amazing Dragon. So, yeah, whatever this Foxy Tune is going to end up summoning, yeah, the Deer Note, that's totally fine here. However, I will say that I probably could have played this Disruption at least a little bit better. I'm thinking particularly the Dangerous Gabu. Maybe I could have just waited for the Rising Carp to come down and then bounced that with the Amazing Dragon. I think that actually would have been the way to go now that I'm saying that out loud and watching this game back here. So, but you know, in the moment, you always tend to think a little bit differently. Well, I will get a draw off of this Jam Extreme session, of course, and bounce all 3 of my opponent's cards back. Maybe we'll get some of the Sarnier. I knew that going in. I'm not really too worried about that as I get to get a draw off of it with the Branded Regained. They're going to summon out their own Lubellion. Now, I will say that was actually another misplay I did identify even as I was playing the game. I should have held my toggle on and then banished the Lubellion to summon either Druiswarm or Baldrake and kept them from getting the Lubellion back out of the graveyard. That was definitely a misplay on my part. Now they can set the Branded Regained, and they have Assault Synchron as one of the last unknown cards in their hand. I'm going to summon both the Baldrake and the Druiswarm here, just to establish both on the board before my opponent starts going into like a Baron or something. That's kind of what I was thinking might happen here, is that my opponent just goes straight into the Baron. And if that were the case, then I could use Baldrake effect on the Baron. It uses the negate, and then I can just, because I tribute the Druiswarm, I believe as a cost. Yes, as a cost, then the Druiswarm would send the Baron anyway, so... they're going for the Chaos War because they're actually using that with a Bystial monster, I believe. I'm going to use the Ash Blossom on the Chaos War just to make sure they don't get any more advantage, although I will say at this point the opponent is definitely doing a lot more than I intended for them to do when I had my end board there. I really should have thought about holding the Amazing Dragon Summon for a little bit later. I did pop it off, I think, a little bit early. And there was also the not banishing the Lubellion, as we identified earlier. Opponent's going to bring out a Psychic and Punisher. Their life points are lower than mine now, so that is going to make the Psychic and Punisher unaffected by any activated card effects. It's pretty brutal there. Summoning the Chaos War, but thankfully this is not lethal. Not at all, actually. And I even get to end with still a couple of monsters on my board going into the next turn. So, or at least the one, the Magnamhut. But we still have the Branded Regained as well as the Extreme Session. And we know our opponent doesn't have any disruption in hand, so... really, all things considered, we're looking pretty good here. In fact, it shouldn't be too difficult to find the win here. Basically, my plan right now is to just go for my own Psychic and Punisher and lower my life points that way, but it actually won't be too difficult for me to lower my life points by using a Punk effect, and then I can just use pretty much any means of getting rid of the Psychic and Punisher. Also, I will identify a misplay I made here. I should have used my Branded Banish on their... or my Bystial Banish on their Bystial Sarnier in the graveyard so that this wouldn't happen instead of the Assault Synchron there. So, my Branded Regained, we'll get it back a Baldrake though because of some of the Sarnier. So I guess it was kind of a trade-off, right? It wasn't technically a misplay. I gave them an extra body, but I got an extra body in return. But now I can seek for 8 and go for the Accel Stardust. Now that my life points are lower than my opponent's, as I mentioned earlier, I get to just blow up the Psychic and Punisher with a Baron here. And now with the Accel, or not the Accel, the Assault Synchron in my graveyard, I believe I have the Chaos Ruler still in here, right? Or did that get, no, that got bounced back at some point. Well, in any case, we do have Assault Synchron set up in the graveyard at some point if that ends up coming up, but I don't think it will. Okay, Amin grabbing the Foxy Tune, we're going to draw a card, we got another Assault Synchron, because why not? And yeah, here's our Psychic and Punisher. Now I can just go ahead and use the Pep effect to get rid of our Bystial monsters. Paying 1,000 will give me some extra attack points here as I go to activate Pep's effect. I normally Assault Synchron because I was running low on time, and I totally forgot that I could have just clicked the I button to, like, you know, look at, you know, how many attack points I had on the field, but I had more than enough, and we managed to take the game from there. So that's going to be all for our first duel, that mirror match there. Let's go ahead and go straight into the next game. Alright, this next one is going to be up against Sky Striker. Been a minute since I played against Sky Striker. I think it's been within the same season, but it's definitely been a long time since Sky Striker was, like, consistently around. Good old Mathmech format. I've been talking about it a lot lately, but during that format, Sky Striker is actually, like, tier 3. But in any case, Lubellion is getting activated. We're going to use that to search for the Magnamhut. As usual, I'm just using the Lubellion as kind of ash bait here. Going to normal summon the Amin and activate the effect to grab the Foxy Tune. Utilizing that with the Sarnier to summon the Chartreuse and send another Lubellion from deck to grave before fusing off for the Rising Carp. Again, just doing what I presume / have seen our standard turn 1 Punk plays, so... whether I go for the Madam Spider or the one that searches spell cards, I'm already blanking on the names. That usually depends on like what my opening hand looks like here. I didn't really think I was going to get that many more life point pings this turn. Plus, I wanted a little bit of extra disruption, just in case it was needed. So I decided to grab the Madam Spider for the Dangerous Gabu here. Gonna grab ourselves an Ogre Dance, and I'm actually gonna end up using the Lubellion effect. Again, this is, I think, is pretty standard. At least it seems like it would be to me if you have access to the Lubellion. Kind of no reason not to set up the Brands of Regained. And since I have this Magnamhut in my hand, once again, I can just go ahead and summon that and potentially get a draw here. Actually, I'm gonna get a draw off of the, Chaos Magical Dragon. And because I'm the luckiest player in the world, I just top deck the Assault Synchron and get to make a Baron here. So that's nice. Yeah, the Chaos Ruler was potentially a little bit more risky. It was a little bit more high roll to see if I could find Assault Synchron here. But we're going to summon Magnamhut anyway. I'm going to link these two off for a Dharc. I think if I had an IP Masquerena, that would have been a lot better here. To maybe go into the Underworld Goddess, but we'll definitely take the Dharc as well. I mean, we really just did that just to proc the Assault Synchron and get the Chaos Ruler back onto the field. So I get to set the Gabu and the Callby and then search for a Druiswarm. So we have... what is this? I would say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of disruption here. It's pretty nice. Opponent's going to Rhoda for their Sky Striker Ace Ray. I'm going to chain Maxx before the Ray hits the field just so that they get a chance to chain the Ray effect, but they have a Callby for the Maxx anyway. I'm going to let this resolve. You know, I don't feel the need to use Baron here. I already have enough disruption, so... But it's got an Afterburners for the Baron, though. I will use Baron's effect here, obviously, just to save the 3k body. But, you know, obviously not ideal to have to use my Amin negate there. Lightning Storm is coming down next, starting to take out all my attack mode monsters. I will chain the Sharakusai effect here, just sync for the Amazing Dragon. I don't get to bounce anything, but at least I get to have a decent body in defense mode. And during my next turn, maybe the Amazing Dragon can bring back one of my Punk monsters. I don't really mind losing Baron and Dharc here, especially because the Dharc just gets to search for an Assault Synchron here. Ray's coming down. I'm going to use the Brands of Regained effect to summon the Magnamhut. I'll get a search off that on the end phase. We're linking off Ray, or our opponent is rather, to summon the Hayate. I have the Gabu, and I'm just going to end up using that to negate the Hayate, which will of course not only prevent the Hayate from sending a spell from deck to grave, but prevent it from attacking directly, period. They're going to use the Kagari here to grab the Afterburners once again. That's a little annoying, especially because they get to blow up a back row now, so... Because of that, when they activate the Afterburners, I'm just going to chain Callby now because I presume they would have blown up the face-down card anyway. We'll just get this Ray out of the graveyard. I technically could have just not chained it, and they probably would have blown it up, and that would have saved my Brands of Regained. Which, as I'm saying that out loud, I think would have been the better line because I could have just used Druiswarm to banish the Ray out of the graveyard anyway. Alright, opponent's going to Shizuku set one card and then pass. Shizuku, of course, grabbing the Mobilize Engage there. Gonna add a Lubellion off the Magnamhut during the end phase, just for a little bit of variety, just in case I need some various amounts of Bystial monsters here. Drawing another Ogre Dance, I'm gonna just go ahead and use one of them to grab myself a Zamin. Normal, the Zamin pays 6, grab a Foxy Tune. Lubellion's going to activate next in order to get the Bystial Baldrake here. Chaos Ruler is activating. I should have technically done this. I actually think I misclicked here and meant to click Lubellion instead, because yeah, that ends up being the next thing I do. I want to summon Lubellion here, actually, and then sync that with the Assault Synchron here in order to summon the Chengying. This is actually a pretty greedy line. I thought about this after the fact. If my opponent's back row was Widow Anchor, they could have potentially punished me here, but I wanted to get Chengying online before I synced off the Chaos Ruler for the Pep, and then just to get the Chaos Ruler back, I wanted the Assault Synchron on the grave. But I already have so many resources that, again, I think that was ultimately at least a little bit greedy there, but... It's okay, never punish. Gonna summon the Chaos Ruler anyway, and then just go ahead and fire off the Chengying effect. It was not the Widow Anchor, it was actually the Linkage was the face-down card there. So here I'll just summon the Druiswarm, move to battle, activate Pep effect, battle over the Shizuku, and then from there we just easily attack with the Pep for lethal there. Alright, we have one more game to take a look at. Let's go ahead and go straight into that one. Okay, so for our final game here, believe it or not, we're actually going to be playing against Yuki Dai himself. That's Jaden Yuki's Japanese name for those who don't know. And believe it or not, this player is going to be on Heroes. Shocker, I know. So they get the first turn, Rhoda for Liquid Soldier, and then normal summon the Stratos, grabbing themselves a Vision Hero Ferris here. Alright, looks like we have a Bystial Sarnier as our only point of disruption, so we're going to have to use that pretty wisely. You have to wait for the opportune moment. It's mainly going to be Destiny Hero Malicious is what I'm waiting for here. As soon as that comes down, I'm just going to go ahead and banish that out of the graveyard. But because Malicious banishes itself as a cost for the summon, you want to make sure that you're going to do it preemptively and watching for it. So, as you can see, they just use Poly to fuse the Mali from hand. So, you know, as my opponent's sending stuff to graveyard, I'm watching their graveyard, keeping my mouse cursor on the toggle. As soon as I see the Mali there, I'm just going to flip it to on, and then as soon as the summon resolves and this effect activates, I'm going to use Sarnier to banish the Malicious out of their graveyard. So, no longer have to worry about that. It's going to make it a lot harder for them to, like, make DPE, for example, make some of the Link monsters. I know that affects some of their lines there. Looks like they're using Miracle Fusion to throw down the Absolute Zero. Liquid Soldier's effect is going to draw them a couple of cards, send off the Denier that they searched there. Looks like we're linking for the Cross Crusader. Yeah, we don't have a D hero in the graveyard to... Oh, no, we do have a Destiny hero in the graveyard to summon, but it's not the Mali, it's the Denier. Putting the Mali back with the Denier, but thankfully they don't have another Mali engraved to utilize that with. Searching the Plasma with the Cross Crusader, but we're not summoning it. We're setting a card and then passing. I'm actually very grateful that Plasma didn't come down here. Although, actually, no, not the Imperm wouldn't have been now because I have Sarnier on my field. Opponent does have a Maxx. I'm going to chain the Sarnier in my hand to that, just giving them one less draw because the Sarnier is, you know, going to be coming down anyway at some point. So, gonna summon the Amin, and from here, I'm just gonna kind of do standard punk stuff and go straight into the Amazing Dragon, especially because I noticed that as I was making these plays, my opponent wasn't getting priority passed to them, so that means whatever this face down card is, it actually wasn't live, it was just, I guess, a bluff or something, or maybe the conditions for it just weren't being met for whatever reason. But I'm gonna use the, what is this card? The Wagon here in order to get my field spell before sinking off into the Chaos Ruler with the Deer Note that's going to allow me to get back one of my level 3 tuners. And yeah, because we're going second here, I'm just going to go straight for the Amazing Dragon. I have 3 level 3 tuners, or 3 of the level 3 punk monsters set up in my graveyard, so I get to bounce all 3 of my opponent's monsters. And I believe this will also cause Absolute Zero to miss the timing, because it's an if, question mark? I know when I bounce them, it doesn't resolve. I'm always so... You would think someone who's as experienced as me would, like, have that down pat, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is here, so... Yep, bouncing all 3 of those cards, moving to battle phase, and I have exactly 8,000. I technically could have put more attack points on the board, but just don't want to give my opponent more draws. Just going to move to battle phase and smack him for exact lethal here. So, alright, that's going to go ahead and do it for these games. Now, let's go ahead and move to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There, for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating. that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Accel. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.